Welcome to the this afternoon's practicum, the do's and don'ts of law firm websites. Today, our goal is to give you a little bit of information on website content, brand and positioning, design and user experience. I'm Kelly Proya. I am the founder of Logicate, and I help lawyers practice law better by teaching them marketing, sales, and customer service skills, and all those other things they didn't learn in law school.
And I'm Tom Conlon. I'm the founder and CEO of North Street. We're a creative services, branding, and design agency with a focus on professional services organizations.
So we're going to start off with a question, and I think it's a pretty profound question when it comes to marketing a law firm. How does the person who suddenly needs an attorney find the right attorney? You have to think about the fact that most people, when they have a legal problem, it might be the first time they've ever had this problem. They're not familiar with the problem. They're not familiar with attorneys. So they actually do what most people do. They go to the internet. And the data currently says that roughly 60% of people use the internet to start their search for an attorney. And that number is increasing. So the 60% number is from a few years ago, and my guess that in this age of COVID, that number's probably increased, even just in the last few months, just like everything we're doing on the internet. Like, we've increased our internet usage profoundly as we're all staying home and quarantined. The key, though, to remember is, what is the message? What do you want to tell these people when they go to the internet and they find your website? You don't have a lot of time to actually make that first impression. At best, you might have about 15 seconds to convince a prospect that they should stay on your website. At worst, some of the research says you have as much as 7 seconds. Prospects, when they hit your website, are looking to do one of two things. They're either looking to qualify you quickly or disqualify you as soon as possible, so they know whether you're the right person or the wrong person. This whole thing with the internet, it's not the way it was in the 90s or the early 2000s. The internet has really changed our society at very fundamental levels. So, for one thing, the internet has brought something called information parity to the world. So it used to be that getting information was very expensive and very difficult, and it was held in the hands of a very few people. And as time has gone by, it's easier to get information, but up until the internet, it was still fairly difficult. You'd either have to go to school, go to the library, have access to books to get the information you needed. Well, what has the internet done? It has democratized information. In a few minutes, I can put queries into Google and come up with any number of sources for information. This has changed the way people interact with the web, because if information is so available, we expect it to be easily accessible. The second thing the internet has done for us is give us what's called information overload. So the honest truth is, we can't handle any more marketing. It's estimated that Americans see anywhere between 4,000 and 10,000 marketing messages a day. Think about how you can't possibly see all of those marketing messages, so you filter based on what your brain is focused on. This means that your website needs to engage prospects quickly and give them what they expect, need, and want to see. Think about why you go to the internet. How do you use the internet? And society's internet usage kind of falls into 4 buckets. We go to the internet to buy things. We go to the internet to see what our friends and family are doing on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. We go to the internet now to play games, to watch movies and television shows, to look at silly YouTube videos, cat videos or whatever. So we want to be entertained. And we also go there for information. We go there for our news, to check out the weather, to check what the latest is on any given thing, what the latest gossip is. You have to think, what category does your website fit into? And in the chat, I would like you all to choose one of the 4 categories: information, commerce, entertainment. What is the category that you think your website fits into? All right, you guys are all good at this. So if you said commerce, you would be wrong. And the reason is people, a lot of law firms make a basic assumption that is completely wrong. And the assumption is that people with legal problems are searching for a lawyer to hire, that they actually want to hire a lawyer. So when we go to the internet, we go to the internet with questions in our head. So we go to the internet, when we go to Facebook, we want to say, oh, what's our college roommate doing today? Or what's our old high school boyfriend doing? So we go to Facebook and we find out. We go, what should I watch today? So we go to Netflix. And we assume that when people go to a law firm website, the question they're asking is, what lawyer am I going to hire? But the truth is, no one wakes up saying, hey, I'm going to write a check to a law firm today. What they're thinking about and what keeps them up at night and what they wake up with in the morning is that big legal problem in their head. So think about, so there's a story about Black & Decker. So new executives at Black & Decker are, they go on a retreat, and the CEO says to them, they're in this room, and there's pictures all over the walls of power drills and table saws and tools of all kinds. And he asks these executives, what does Black & Decker sell? And the executives look around at all these pictures and they say, well, we sell tools. And the CEO says, no, we do not sell tools. Nobody wants to buy a drill. They want the hole in the wall. They're buying the tools in order to solve their problem. So, and that's the same mentality as somebody coming to your law firm website. They don't want to hire a lawyer. All they want is the solution to their legal problem. So what do prospects care about? They care about themselves and their legal problems. No offense to any lawyers on this call, but they don't care about you. They don't care where you went to law school. They don't care how old your firm is. They don't care about the firm at all. All they literally care about is themselves, the legal problem they have, and how it impacts their lives. And with that in mind, what do law firms give them? Most law firms give them very vague general statements about their being innovative or cost effective. In this case, at Reinhardt, we stand by our clients. So I'm supposed to be, call that number because you're not going to run away from my legal problem? Is that the value I get from hiring Reinhardt? You're going to stand by me? Well, if I hire any lawyer, I expect them to stand by me. I mean, these are all table stakes, right? Like, this is what you expect. If this would be the equivalent if you went on a painter's website and the painter says, we will paint your room the color you want us to paint it. And we will stay there on the job until the job is done. Like, yeah, that's what I'm paying you for. But instead, we make these really vague general statements that are vague, and most of the time they're opinions. Like, innovative. Well, that's an opinion. I will tell you right now, if you're billing by the hour, you're not innovative. If I can't put a credit card in, if I can't hit a button on your website and pay my bill with a credit card, you're not innovative. And you're probably not cost effective either. So these are value judgments that are basically your opinion. So if you use terms like trust, integrity, cost effective, that's not up to you to say. It would be like me you meeting me at a cocktail party or a USA 500 event and you've never met me, and I say, hey, here's what I do, trust me. Would you trust me? And you probably like, well, why should I trust you? And I'd say, well, in this case, the law firm says, well, because I'm a law firm. Trust me because I'm a law firm. Trust me because I'm a lawyer. And most people are going to be like, yeah, no, I just met you and I don't feel comfortable with that. So you have to look at your website also as this is a place somebody's just meeting your firm. It's as if they've met you for the first time at a cocktail party. So when you say things like, oh, we're innovative, we're cost effective, our clients trust us and all that stuff, nobody knows that. They don't know you from anyone. So you have to use language that goes to the value you bring to the situation the prospect finds themselves in. How do you lay out the website to maximize what your prospects actually want to see?
Yeah, okay, so just to key on what Kelly was saying. So the first thing a user sees when they land on your site is called the hero or the main feature block. This is your chance to make your first impression, so you have to make it count. Don't fall into the trap of being too vague, like Kelly said, and like our imaginary law firm here in North Street LLP. Being focused on your clients is great, but what kind of law firm is this? I can't tell. Are you focused on my goals or the goals of a different type of client? You're not really being straightforward. Do you offer services I want to buy? I don't know. I can't tell what you do with this statement, so I'm gonna leave and go somewhere else. Another trap that some organizations fall into is that they get too far into the weeds with something, with being like super specific about something without having told you what they do. So I'm sure you've seen this on websites when you land on there and before this organization or firm has told you what they do and who they serve, they're telling you about their COVID-19 response or some recent article that was published in this or that law journal, and you're like, what even is this? So it's using this space poorly is a huge lost opportunity. So the flip side of that would be to lead with specifics. Now like the North Street LLP law firm has switched it up a little bit. They still say focused on your goals, but they also say we provide legal services to socially responsible companies in the financial and private equity sectors. Okay, that is super specific. If that is who I am, there's a learn more button right there. I'm definitely going to hit that.
So when people go to look for a lawyer for their big legal problem, think about it as if it were a big medical problem. So they're big, scary, potentially expensive, and they're life-changing. And like medical problems, the layperson doesn't know anything about this problem, because if they've never had the problem before, how would they know how to get divorced? How would they know how to, take their loved one's estate through probate? How would they know how to do any, form a company or any of these things? So rather than wow them with we're cost effective and innovative, give them the information they want, because when the person lands on this website, they want, obviously, they'll know instantly if they're in the right place. Within 10 seconds, they'll know, okay, this is a divorce law firm in North Carolina. Is this what I need? Well, if it is, now I can quickly look and say, oh, wow, what are all these buttons? What am I supposed to learn here? And I can start clicking through. So I love this website for many reasons. And so imagine some night your spouse comes home and says, I don't want to be married to you anymore. So most people do not hire a lawyer right away. In most cases, it can take up to 6 months to a year or longer for somebody to actually pull the trigger and file for divorce. But in those moments, after the shocking news comes your way and your spouse tells you, you know what, I don't want to be married to you anymore. After you're done throwing him out of the house, after you're done throwing his stuff on the lawn, you're going to grab a glass of wine or a beer. You're going to sit at your computer and you're going to figure out, what does it mean to me if we get a divorce? So which website are you going to want? Are you going to want the website that says, hey, we're a really innovative law firm who does divorce in North Carolina. You should think about hiring us, versus this website where you're like, how do I get a divorce? And now I can go on and say, oh, look, alimony. What does that mean? Child support. What does that mean? Retirement funds. Ooh, I should go look at that. Maybe I can get money out of the retirement fund. I can spend hours on this website learning about divorce. And then when I'm ready, I'm going to bookmark this page. And when I'm ready, I'm going to go back to this firm and I'm going to hire this firm because of how helpful they were. They showed their value. Before I've even contacted one lawyer at the firm, they've already given me value. And that is, that's like glue. That's something where it makes them stick to you and give you, it gives pretty much, I would say almost 100% of the time, they're going to call your firm once they've gotten some form of value from you. The antithesis of this is this lovely website here. We understand what you're going through. So again, nobody cares where you went to law school. Nobody cares about the firm. And I understand that they tried to do an empathy play here. We understand what you're going through. And my initial reaction, if I'm in the situation where I'm getting divorced, I'm saying, no, you don't. You have no idea what I'm going through. And this is actually a psychological thing. There's psychological studies that say, even if, like, say, two people lost their mothers, they will experience that very differently. So two people getting divorced will experience it very differently. Two people having children will experience it very differently. So, some mothers may have postpartum depression. Some mothers might be able to run a marathon 2 months out. You cannot assume that you understand what anybody is going through. So when you use language like, we listen, we care, though, that's not a true value proposition. That's something that I just expect you to do. I expect you to listen to me. I expect you to care about my case, but it doesn't make me want to hire you. There's no marketing real capital or value there. I can't, all right, you care, so what? I expect you to care. You need to provide the right information, and that is legal information about the legal problem that the person has.
Yeah, and I will also just say that this image, we'll talk about imagery in a bit, but this imagery definitely misses the mark. You know, I think this is probably their office building, maybe, but it also looks like an apartment complex or potentially even a prison. So I'm not really sure what they were going for with this image. Okay, I'm going to talk about UX, some user experience design a little bit. So this image right here on our Imaginary North Street LLP law firm site is, this is showing a carousel. I'm sure you're familiar with what these are. These are, you know, left and right buttons cycling through a bunch of images or content. They call it a carousel because it usually goes round and round. It's critical that your website does not use carousels to display very important information. User behavior studies have found that the visible items in a carousel can have a click-through rate up to 89%, but the stuff that's hidden that you have to click through to, that click-through rate drops down to 3%. So in other words, if it's not visible on the page, it's basically invisible. So if your fourth slide on a carousel is trying to make an important point about who you are and what you do, consider it not even seen because no one's seeing it. Carousels are good for certain things, and in certain contexts, people expect them. So an example would be a photo gallery. That makes total sense. Or even if you're cycling through testimonials, it's like if you missed the 5th testimonial, no big deal. They got the idea. They got the idea from the first or the second one. Instead, make sure that critical information is visible by default. The user shouldn't have to toggle controls or wait to see anything that you absolutely need them to see. If they don't see it on the page, they've missed it. Here's another one. So I sort of get the EBGBs when I see websites like this, and I'm sure you've seen them, where a website that tries to cram absolutely everything on the website into that initial initial view when the page loads. It's often referred to as above the fold. That's sort of like from the old newspaper days when you try to get the top stories, on the front page above the fold. Looking at this example, this is analysis paralysis, right? You've given the user so many choices choices of where to go and what to look at that they're going to be overwhelmed. And when people are given an overabundance of choices, do you know what most people choose? They choose nothing. They leave. Definitely do not try to cram your entire website into the initial load screen. Instead understand that people scroll, right? It's like people are now conditioned, especially with mobile devices, to start scrolling as soon as they hit a web page. So you do not need to force everything above the fold. And what you want to do is you want to create a narrative, right, that takes them through, this is sort of like first idea, second idea, third idea. It's like first idea, explain who you are, what you do, who you serve. Second idea, support it with some supporting arguments, which is like, okay, these are our practice areas. And then the third part of the narrative could be additional supporting evidence, which could be, blog posts, thought leadership, stuff like that. So the idea is take them through a narrative as they scroll down the page and give them opportunities to click into different parts of your site. Okay, let's talk about navigation a little bit. Again, don't give your user too many choices. This navigation here is way too crammed. You're giving me too many options to choose from. I don't know what's more important. I don't know what you want me to do here. Do you want me to click on your firm's history, or do you want me to, look at the services that you offer? I don't know. There's too many buttons, so I'm probably just going to leave. Also, too many navigation items don't scale well for smaller screens. So that's something important to keep in mind. So do something more like this. Take your 4 most important things that you want people to look at and put them in the primary navigation. Always have a call to action up at the top right. The contact us, schedule an appointment, book an appointment, whatever. You'll find if you look at your website's content that a lot of the pages can sort of get folded into bigger sections. So like the about section here has the firm history inside of it. I want to talk quickly about imagery. I'm sure you've seen a lot of websites like this where the images look like they come from 6 different universes, right? You've got like it's a potpourri of like bad stock art. You've got the people doing the all hands in. You've got the people on the second image like cheering at work, which is just an unrealistic situation. You've got the road to success sign. You've got the 3D figures. None of this fits together in like a holistic way. It's just so weirdly incongruent that it's a visual turnoff. Instead find a theme and stick with it. So, a nature theme in this example, nature can speak to being trusted, tried and true, stable, calm. And you can see that every image, fits into the overall aesthetic of the site.
So we're back to this lovely photo of the office building. So Tom and I, when we were looking at this, both of us said, well, is this the apartment building that I'm going to live in after I get divorced? Okay. Like it's this like odd like building. And a lot of law firms do things like they'll have a picture of their conference room with empty chairs, or they'll have like a picture of a building, or worse yet, they'll do the picture of the city skyline. And I see this most often with like, okay, so my practice is in the suburbs, but I'm going to have a picture of the Boston skyline as my, on that front page. And I see, like, I just see this so much, like a firm might be in Woburn or Framingham or down the Cape, and they'll have this like photo and it's like the big Boston skyline. And the issue with that is, one, if you're in the suburbs, you're probably looking for clients in the suburbs. And if they're looking for you, they're going to look at the picture of Boston and go, oh my God, he's in Boston. That's a pain to get to. Second, they're going to assume you're really expensive because things in the city are usually more expensive than things in the suburbs. And then the third thing, though, which goes to like the trust and integrity issue, is if I figure out that you've got a picture of the Boston skyline, but you're really in Framingham, I'm going to be like, hey, like you've already lied to me. Like you're in Framingham, not Boston. Like, what's up with that? Why don't you have a picture of Main Street or the Common in Framingham or the Common in town? Why aren't you proud to be from whatever town you're from and the people you're looking to get business from. So you have to really choose imagery that would speak to your prospect and be very mindful of that. Like, one of the ones you see a lot is like the people at the table, at the conference table with their pens in hand, and they're all like, ha ha, we're signing this document. Like, most people don't feel that way when they're signing a divorce settlement or a, or even like a lot of people who are even like buying houses. Most of the time they're nervous. They're like, oh my God, this is a huge purchase. They're like deer caught in headlights. There's 60 minutes worth of documents to sign. And it's like, but we put this imagery out there that's kind of that stock photo, and it just doesn't serve us. So this image is also a North Carolina family law group. And Tom and I both love this image because it speaks to the values of the firm. It gives you a value proposition without making opinions or judgments. We have a track record, we have the expertise, and we're gonna fight for you. And it literally just says, play hard, play fair, play to win. That's something people can respond to. It's not like, oh, we care about you. It's when I look at this, I'm like, all right, like, I'm going to check and see what else they have to offer, because I value lawyers who work hard for me. I value fairness, and I want to win. So I'm going to check this out.
Yeah, and I'll also say that this is a pretty creative approach. It stands out. I mean, I think you would remember this. And it's also, these images are positive. They're not like, it just gives you positive vibes. All right, I'm going to speak to you a quick note about the way you end your site, which is the footer. Please don't treat your website footer like a dumpster, like this one. This is like every single link on the website, and even links that go offsite, jammed so quickly, so jam-packed here that, again, I go back to analysis paralysis. You give people too many choices and they're gonna act on none of them. Instead, be selective about the links you wanna put in there. And most importantly, is to have this call to action at the very end. If someone has scrolled down your website and they're still with you, they're still hanging on, they're nodding, they're kind of liking what they see, and they get to the very end and there's nothing for them to do, it's another chance that you've just lost them. So very, very important to have a very prominent, very clear call to action at the end of your website that says, contact us, schedule an appointment, book an appointment, whatever you want the conversion to be. And that's it. So let's take questions.
So when you're profiling attorneys, is there a particular order as far as who they are? It's always a little description of who they are. And what do you suggest that goes first, or what order? You have usually credentials, experience, what they do. Sometimes people put in, I ride bikes and beat my kids, or they don't say that, but you know what I'm saying. Like, what's the order?
So do you know where your doctor went to medical school?
Yes.
So I don't. I mean, I have no idea. I have no idea where my dentist went to dental school. I think most people assume that when you put yourself out as something, they assume you are it. So they'll assume you're an attorney. And so I would lead with what they do. I would absolutely with the value they bring to the prospect. So I don't want to go searching through their bio to see that they handle whatever area of the law that I need them to handle. I want it right up front and center. I'm never going to read their journal articles. I'm never going to read their thought leadership that they published 10, 20 years ago. I don't care if they were on Law Review. And this is coming from somebody who was in-house counsel, who literally worked with over 600 law firms around the world.
I would also say, like, I like personal anecdotes as well, but you have to be careful with them. So it's like, oh, this woman has 3 kids, and that's great. I have kids too, but you want to be careful if it's something like, I'm a big game hunter, and I really enjoy like taxidermy and stuff like that. Anything that's sort of like could just rub someone the wrong way, I would definitely avoid. We have another one, Joe.
first of all, it's funny because you mentioned the big game hunter, and I just say this because I went into a restaurant recently, and the owner had pictures everywhere of big game that he had killed. And I told my wife, I said, "We'll never come." It was walk in right now. You can't stay in there anyway. But I said, we are never going to this restaurant just because I find it, just my own personal values are that you're not out killing lions and big game. That's just my own personal opinion, but I thought it was, I had a strong reaction myself. But my question is also, Kelly, not to argue with you because I think you're right, but when you're doing a website, sort of, isn't the mood also based on sort of that practice area that you're in? So if you're an M&A attorney, you probably want to be less warm and fuzzy because your clientele are super business oriented type of people versus I can't remember which member. We have a member who has a phenomenal website because he does trust and estates, and it's all about his family. Can you hear me? It's all about it's all about his family and how the law firm was built by his grandfather, and he grew up running the halls of the law firm, and now he's the managing partner. And it's a very warm site, and I thought, wow, it gives me the warm and fuzzies. This is a person that would handle my trust and estates. I would feel like he's part of the family. And so I think some things, and to Patty's point about knowing who her doctor is, I know exactly where my doctors went, because that's something that tends to be a priority just for me. So, I mean, isn't it something you have to really assess your practice and your clients?
Oh, I absolutely think so. And also, I mean, if you're an M&A attorney in New York City and you're doing big law, your website has a different purpose than if I'm a small firm attorney in the suburbs that is handling trust and estates or divorce or real estate practice. They're very different things, but I would always lead with what you do for the client, because that's what the client really cares about. Like, what is it that, that makes you the right person to take my case? So if you lead with a bunch of stuff, I mean, obviously have all the information there that you went to law school, where you went to law school, have the credentials there, but lead with, what are you going to do for me? I have this problem that's keeping me up at night and I don't know what to do about it. How are you going to help me? And at the end, I would always put some sort of anecdote. Like, I have it even in my short bio on, like, I like sushi. I'm a big fan of you too. I don't drink coffee. I drink tea. You have like these little anecdotes about yourself. But the truth is, you want to start with, what is the value you bring to my life?
Cool. Let's take another one. George Bischoff.
So a lot of us have practices where you have sort of very different client pools. For me, it's, planning. I need a lawyer. I'm going to do this. It's great. Decedent estates, whether it's, divorce and prenups or residential closings and landlord-tenant. Do you sort of try to have two different front pages, or just sort of click on door one or door two? What's the right way to kind of lead strong, but also say, show something different to two different prospect pools?
I would think that you want to be as specific as you can be, right? But if you do have separate pools, then you need to pull back and be a little more abstract, I guess. But again, it's that idea of, like, as people scroll down the page, you can tell them the story you want to tell them, right? So, it could be you've got a module here that's about one practice area, a module here that's for another practice area, and they're going to click to go deeper into the part of the site that they're interested in.
One of the things you can't assume is that everyone is going to come in through the front door, that everyone's going to come into your website through the homepage. So, for instance, if I'm looking for an estate planning attorney, but my firm does 3 or 4 things, and I put an estate planning attorney and your firm does come up, when I click that link, I may go to the practice area page. I may not even go to the front, the home page. So you have to assume that they're not going to, always go through the front door. So if they're not doing that, set up your practice area page, kind of like a mini home page for that practice area.
Yeah, and also just to hammer that point home, that's really important, that people might come in on a blog post right? And so it's really important to make sure that you're circulating people to the areas of the site that you want to circulate them to when they're done reading the article. So, you know, it could be related content, but it could be the related practice area, or, you know, it could be the attorneys that work in that practice area. But definitely think about that. Don't assume that they went to your homepage and then clicked onto the page that they're on.
That's great. Thank you.
Good point about the blog, because a lot of people will be on your blog and then they'll want to be like, okay, how do I find the next piece of information?
Yeah. Ben Stitch.
Hi, thanks. This has been great. I have two questions. The first, and if you said this, I apologize. I'm wondering what your take is on having your image above the fold. You know, I've been advised by some people that that makes that personal connection and creates some warmth. I've had other people say it looks weird. So I'd love your take on that. And then the second, and maybe this isn't relevant for here, but you know, when I built my site, it was 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. I was really current on SEO back then. And I'm wondering if there's like 2 or 3 new, most important kind of best practices for SEO that you guys could share with us.
Yeah, so I'll give my answers and then hand it over to Kelly. I don't think I personally, I wouldn't put your photo as the first thing you see, because again, it's like it's not about you, it's about your clientele and like what they need. But I definitely think you should have it on the site displayed somewhere else, because they want to make a human connection, you know, human to human, to see that you're real. As far as the SEO stuff goes, one thing that's really interesting is that Google announced recently that good user experience design is soon going to begin factoring into your search results. So that's probably going to roll out next year. But think about that. If you've got a bad site that doesn't work well, or is just not good to navigate, you're actually going to get dinged on search. It's amazing. I mean, I find that amazing. Another one is I would definitely look at, I would make sure that your website has schema markup, SCHEMA, schema.org. That is, it's micro information. It's basically a way to mark up certain bits of information on your site that makes them recognizable in format. So it would be like, oh, I know that this is a bio. I know that this is an article. I know that this is an address. I know that this is a phone number. Because right now Google makes those assumptions, but this is just an extra layer of, of information that you're providing to the search engines to help them understand what's what on your website. Kelly.
I agree. I think I'm not an SEO expert, you know, by any stretch of the imagination. But I do think I wouldn't lead with your photo. And actually, that I have my photo like front and center on my website, and that's coming off this summer. The one thing though, you said your website is old. The one thing about websites is once you put up your website, you literally should be planning to have a new website within 3 to 5 years of the old one, of putting up. So the minute it goes up, you need to start planning for the next website. It can't sit there for more than, you know, I'd say 3 to 5 years, because unless it's so cutting edge, because all of a sudden, like I look at some websites that were beautiful, would have been beautiful in 2005 or 2010, and all of a sudden they look old and dated now.
Okay. Cool. So we're at time. I want to get to everybody's questions if we can. So Kenneth.
Hi, thank you guys very much. This is a question that I think I noticed in the chats. It's kind of a similar theme. You'd mentioned in the beginning about 60% of clients find the attorney through online searching. And I'd always, I'm more in the B2B, corporate world. And so I hadn't really thought of it that way, that clients would just say, I'm looking for an attorney, to sell my business or something like that. Within that 60%, are there any statistics about sort of what types of law really that is, or if that is generally, how to sort of divide that?
I haven't seen the specifics, so I'm sorry. I don't have but I understand what the question is. And as I said, like, if I'm looking to hire Cravath or Skadden, like I'm not going to their website to vet them versus going to a smaller firm. So there's definitely, I'm sure there's data out there. I'm just not familiar with it. Sorry, Ken.
Okay, no, thanks.
Christopher.
Hi. So I heard that, and this is probably one of the major reasons why we're changing our website right now, is that many times users don't come in through the front door, that they'll come in through a blog entry, which might be seen on social media. Someone sees, oh, blogged on an update on the EEOC's recent updates on COVID-19 response, and you start reading that. And then you said, so you wanted to, when you want to make it, you want to guide that user from the blog to the rest of your website, so to the way you want them to. So I guess my question is, so how do I do, what would you suggest? I mean, I'm sitting there, the users that looking at the blog, what should that user see to get back to the website?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, it's really, I would think about conversion, right? So what do you want them to do? You want them to ultimately call you and get in touch with you. So how is that going to, how are they going to get there? Are they going to need a little bit more information before they're comfortable calling you or emailing you? So in that case, I would point them towards your practice areas, any successes you can point to, any testimonials, but also make sure that you have like the direct call to action prominent there as well, because they might just be sold right after reading the article, and you're going to want to capture that instead of having them to like look around to find.
I got it. Okay, that's
And
great.
I would also put any related articles. So, you have the latest on COVID-19, but if you missed our last update, or if you missed this special webinar we had, or if you missed like links to all of that. But I agree with Tom, like what do you want them to do? And if you know that the best way to convert, like a car salesman knows the best way to get someone to buy a car is to do a test drive. So their motivation is to get people in the showroom to do test drives. So what is the motivation for them to call you? Like what would be, is it like schedule a 20-minute call? Is it like to talk about your case, or whatever that is, whatever would bring them in? Like you want that prominently at the end of the blog post. But it could be simply, if you're interested in reopening your business and you need information on that, go to our business practice page and here are the lawyers that can help you with that type of thing. Like, but you want them to do something.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's we are out of time and out of questions. So I want to thank everybody for attending. Really appreciate it. And don't hesitate to contact Kelly or I if you have any follow-up questions or anything.
Just to let everybody know, if you're looking for a copy of their deck, or if you're looking for a copy of the recording of this session, don't reach out to me. You can reach out to Tom or Kelly, and they'll be able to provide that for you, because all I'll do is forward it to them anyway.
Yep.
So thank you guys very much for putting this
Thank you
together.
very much.
Thank
Thanks,
you all
everybody.
for attending. I very much appreciate it.
All right, bye-bye.